Good morning. Welcome to morning meditation. Yesterday was a bit of a rough day for me. I had a triggered memory of a past set of incidents, a rough 2-week period before I turned 16. And there was a rape and a friend betrayal and a family betrayal and all of that tacked on to boogers. So today we're going to talk about trauma and how to work your way through it when it happens. All of us experience trauma in different ways, but trauma that is still holding on to us is impeding our flow into the future. Now, I thought that I had dealt with all these things individually and had forgiven everything that needed to be forgiven individually, and everything came up to be able to see in a web. And some of the reasons why I'm not really good at being physically vulnerable. And it was a moment of physical vulnerability. Couldn't quite get out of my my camisole after a hot tub, which is a little frustrating. Well, it's more than frustrating. It is disempowering, and it's definitely a physical vulnerability. At least it feels so to me. So, trauma. We all have it, and we all have experiences that we haven't quite completely dealt with. And if we carry the weight of that, then we are taking with us a hell of a lot more baggage into the future than we need. And it can actually impede our forward progress. So, first of all, I took off, so I didn't take it out on anybody else. Luckily, people in my life understand that sometimes this happens because I want to think my way through it first. I don't want to have to apologize for my behavior after having to deal with the trauma and blah, blah, blah. So, I go up by myself and I deal with it. And the way that you deal with trauma is you look at the situation, you spend time with it, you give it the time and attention that it needs, you pull out every single little tiny detail, and you remember it in order, without exaggeration, without any kind of judgment on anyone. You just look at it as the experience was as it unfolded. And as soon as you can't find any more detail, or you can't get any more sure about the thing and how it exactly happened and what exactly took place, then you start pulling out the emotions that you were feeling at that time. My emotions were betrayed, alone, physically vulnerable, felt as if I wasn't good enough for the people in my life, that I was the one who was questioned on the whole thing and found to be wanting. And after you're done pulling out every last bit of those that you can pull out, you pull out the emotions that I have now, looking back on the situation. And how did I feel now? I felt like I'm sorry for that poor little girl. And I was talking to Bill later, and he's like, whether it was a little girl or not, it was a wrong situation. It was a terrible situation for anyone ever to have to get through. And I found a few moments to hug my inner child, and she kind of needed it. And I spent a lot of time while doing this crying and kind of letting the tension of having to hold back the entire picture of a 2-week period. And that whole 2 weeks just blew up, I mean, every single area of my life. And I had never looked at it all together before, but it does show me how peace is so important. Yeah, a lot of ums. This is really personal. Sorry. Peace is so important. If I was physically vulnerable, I could be attacked. If I was too happy, I could be torn down. If I was telling the truth and it was very unpleasant, then I could be disbelieved and shunned and put into a situation. I was raped, and my friends put me into a situation where they actually invited me to a place where the rapist was, in the hopes of uncovering how untrue it was that it was non-consensual. I was 15, the farmhand was 30. It was non-consensual. I had spent an hour and a half throwing up over a bucket. But they had to put me in that situation to be able to prove that I wasn't telling the truth, because the farm belonged to one of their boyfriends. And it would upend their entire world for that to be true. And the truth is, it upended only mine. And there is a part of me that's grateful for that. I still think these women are awesome, but it was a situation, it was a time and place that kind of thing happened. And then I went to my brother, and he told me I was a whore, and I wasn't going to go to my parents. My life outside of the house would have been over, and I'm pretty sure they would have dug it in for years and years and years to come to prove what terrible decision making I made. And I had to live with this as a whole. I got kicked out of the house. All my stuff was on the front porch. I was told if I was screwing around to go to the doctor and fix it, because they're not paying for an abortion and they're not taking care of my children. And all of this before I turned 16. So I did an awful lot of crying and going through those steps. And every time my mind would wander, and it did, it just kind of, when you start getting into it, it kind of blacks out. Like it allows you to take it out if you want one. And then you have to bring it back. Be there and be present in the situation. And look at it as an observer at first, just to get the details out, so you know that you're remembering correctly what it was. It's not for a justification or a permission slip or anything like that. It is to allow you to change it in your brain. And the change that happens in your brain is the way that you view it. I viewed it as a very scared young lady, and then a very sad young lady, and a very alone young lady. And if I look at it without those emotions first, just to get the facts out, I have given my brain a pattern of having not such a dire reaction to it. It's still there, it still causes emotions. I've still got blah, blah, blah eyes because of spending so much time crying and getting through it yesterday. And yet, each time that I can go through it in its totality as an observer, and then do the emotion afterwards, and do the emotion of looking back on it after that, what I'm doing is I'm actually separating the not worth it as a person part of the situation, so that it is a different part, which takes the edge off of the ending. And they have found in using mushrooms and lucid dreaming that they can do an awful lot for people who suffer with PTSD in numerous different areas by allowing them to relive the situation and change an ending so that it loses its oomph, which allows you to be able to go forward in releasing the backed up and pent up stuff. And that doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean it doesn't ever come up again. Who knows what the triggers are that can happen. But it does mean that each time that you deal with it in an effective way, you are giving yourself a new picture that has a less dramatic part to it, which takes away the drama of reenacting it. I can sit here and I can tell you that I went through that scenario, and I couldn't do that 30 years ago, and this happened 41 years ago. And still, yesterday, in the most peaceful, beautiful place, a trigger happened with not being able to get my top off to go into the shower, and boom. So obviously, I still need some more work. And the good thing, if you can pull a good thing out of it, is that I am in a place where I could see the whole picture. And I don't know if I've ever been able to do that any time before. It was bits and snippets and this person and that person, and okay, I go through forgiveness and I go through finding the details and pulling out the emotions and what emotions are I dealing with, and I'm looking back at this and letting it go. And this time my brain and my piece is such that I could see it as the entire 2-week period that it was. And it gives me a new insight into some of the behaviors that I had, and the fact that one of the things I'm really, really terrible at is not so much emotional vulnerability, but physical vulnerability. That's why when I was extremely sick, I had such a terrible hard time emotionally with it, because physically I could not do what I wanted to do. And I feel for everybody out there who's going through or dealing with chronic illness right now, with or without a diagnosis. It's part of it is an acceptance of the experts who tell you whether this is curable or not, whether this is something you can do anything about or not. And mostly they leave you just, twiddling your thumbs, taking pills. And eventually that just builds problem on top of problem on top of problem. Part of any healthful going forward is, first of all, being able to recognize that there can be a different scenario that actually has to do with you getting better. There have been all sorts of stories, every which way, about people who have been able to cure something that isn't curable, technically. And it doesn't mean that what they're going through isn't real. It is totally real. The pain is totally real. It is physically happening. It is not all happening in your brain. But by using your brain, what you can do is you can set a different stage, and you can pull in by visualizing a different reality. And you can help to pull up the things that are stuck in there, that are causing a block in the flow of energy that cause sickness to happen. And then you can properly deal with them as many times as it takes for them to lose power over your decision making. And that's a lot. I know, that's a lot. Today, we're going to do this in our morning meditation in a small way. And this happens in small steps. You don't have to set aside 2 hours. If you can, when this comes up and you can spend that time dealing with it, awesome. But you don't have to spend those hours. You can do 5 minutes in the morning and get a very wonderful result. I'm going to show you how. Okay. Now, memories are kept back here behind the third eye. One of the things that builds up the walls on what is possible and what is not possible in our own little boxes in our mind of reality inside, and everything else is just you cray. That is those things that we allow ourselves to believe can be true. And when you're really sick and you're in pain all day long, I have been, it is very hard to believe that it is true. That without something like a pill or a doctor or what have you, that you can change that trajectory. And so we're going into indigo. Really deep, wonderful, rich, blue. And I feel the vibration happening here. It's a wonderful feeling. This is where it's kind of like the corpus callosum, which is the little thing that runs between the right and the left side of the brain and allows all that stuff to go back and forth. So you go in it and you allow a little bit more of your creative mind to enter into a little bit more of your logical mind, and all of a sudden you can get beliefs in areas that maybe you couldn't see your way to believing before. So wonderful place in third eye here. Good intuition. And making some new connections to some potential new realities. Like if you're sick, if you are dealing with PTSD, that you can actually do actions that have a positive impact instead of a negative one on the outcome. Okay, connect to the universal love, higher wisdom, that whichever you have faith in. Scratch your nose. Let the download of wisdom happen. Let that unconditional love come in. Once we're out of this body, that's what it is. You just live in this wonderful ocean of unconditional love. One droplet, individualized. That's us. Let's pull it down. Feel the different areas, the different vibrations of the different colors. And feel them all singing together. Kind of like a really beautiful symphony. A Bohemian Rhapsody. However your mind likes to take in music. And connect yourself into the earth. Ground yourself as an electric body and become part of the conversation of those things that appear to be solid. Our body, our physicality, stuff we can touch. The roots of the plants. The bugs that crawl within. The trees, the flowers, the soil, the earth, the warmth from the core. Let's bring it back up. Let's feel the vibration here. We're going to go into the mind palace. And we're going to calm down the tornado. Which will reveal all the doors, and all the windows, and all the drains. The more good you put in, the more there isn't room for the negative, and it just falls out down the drains. Now in all of these doors, what you have are different paths that you can choose, and these are based upon how much you have used each neuron in your lifetime. Now, the neuron to physical vulnerability has a door over here for me. You can pick whichever door is the situation that you are currently de-dramatizing the trauma in. And you go in, you see the path that is nice and well worn. It's sturdy. I've seen an awful lot of walks, awful lot of walks. What we're going to do is we're going to visually, I see stones coming up from the abyss and creating another pathway. Another pathway where I am not ashamed or embarrassed about physical vulnerability. And another pathway where it doesn't scare me. Another pathway where it just is what it is. And I can laugh about it because the truth is it probably looks really funny. And I'm just going to start building this other bridge so that I can choose which way I walk. I'm going to walk on the new bridge that isn't scared of physical vulnerability. It isn't vulnerable, it isn't panicky, it isn't ashamed. It's a new thing. All right, let's do it. And I'm going to take a broom and I'm going to start sweeping away the particles on the other path, just on the edge, to loosen the sturdiness of the path that I have already trod 1,000 times plus before. And I'm just going to take some off the edge. I'm going to take some off of this edge. Sweep it right off. Just little particles coming off the edge. I'm not going to get rid of it. I mean, it's part of who I am, and it's part of what has led me here. It is giving me lessons that I needed to come into a place to do with my life what I'm supposed to do. And I believe that this is a very big part of it. And without having that path, I might not be on this one. So I'm not going to get rid of it completely, but I am going to make it a little less attractive. So I'm going to take some of the nice bits off. And I'm going to leave some debris. It doesn't quite look as beautiful. This other new path. Oh, that's pretty. Put some flowers and some railings and some really sturdy bits and pieces so that I can walk that new path. And then I can choose to go back to one of the things that made me who I am and walk that path in remembrance without quite so much of a dramatic response as the one when you are still desensitizing the drama. This is especially hard to do when you are in the middle of something, and that is absolutely a time to do it if you can. That little bit of extra courage is a message to your brain also that you are taking control of this situation instead of this situation being in control of you. And you don't have to tell that to anybody else in the world, but you do need to reaffirm to your brain with actions that I have decided to take this over. Don't worry about it, got this. And then you can choose which path you're going to be walking. So maybe it comes up the next time that I feel vulnerable and I get a little scared, and I can choose that path. And that path, okay, that was a little funny. Couldn't get out of her top. Oh, wet. Let's walk that puppy. Let's remember, okay, I got there this way, but that's that path over there. This path is the one I'm going to walk from now on. And then it becomes a choice. And when you are dealing with the things that have caused you trauma, there's a lot of time that they are not a choice when they come up, and how they come up and how you emotionally react to them. And I'm going to leave that door just slightly ajar, because I got doors all over the place. Things that I have had happen in my life that created me. And I'm okay with me. I'm pretty happy with myself and what I've made and how my days go and the choices in my life. And this one, still lingering, so I'll work on it. Same way I tell you, everybody out there, that this is how you can work on it. This is something you can do. This is time that you can take to go forward using visualization and meditation to be able to desensitize a trauma. Third eye. Have your boxes gotten any further out? I feel like my box just got bigger. I can have what happened, and I can have a new path when it comes up. And both things are true. Connect to the wisdom, unconditional love. Stuff I know is more than I know. Let it wash over you. Allow it to come in and fill up your box. Or maybe expand it even further. Bring it down. Feel the harmony. Get a nice straight spine so you got good spinal flow. And feel the harmonizing of the different colors of the different chakras. Connect to the earth and the physicality. And have a wonderful day. Walk your new path. Namaste.